Right. Let's talk about public perception. The New York Times, Siena did a poll this week, found that only about 16% of people say that AI is mostly good, about 35% say it's mostly bad. What do you make of the AI backlash that we're seeing right now, and how much leverage do you think Google has to change that perception?
I mean, AI is, I've always viewed it as the most profound technology humanity will ever work on. It's progressing at an extraordinary pace. Humans aren't evolved to process that much change. And I think people rightfully so are anxious about, what is the future that this technology will bring. So to me, I understand it. I think it feels to me natural with like such a profound technology shift. We've had far simpler technology shifts where there has been anxiety around those shifts. This is of a scale unlike anything we've seen before. I think we as an industry have to do a lot more to continue driving and showing the benefits that's possible with the technology. So that is something in our control. We have more work to do to make sure when we are scaling up the infrastructure investments, et cetera, what are the things we can do to make some of that work better. But I think people's concerns are a bit more fundamental around the shift than all of that. I think a natural part of this is people are anxious about their economic future in this world. And, you have a lot of conversation where people saying, jobs are going to radically change, some of it will go away, et cetera. I happen to think, the outlook is better than some of those dire predictions. But, as a society, if you're hearing, it's natural. I would be surprised if people weren't more anxious about it. I do think it's important because the change is happening so fast. You need people in democracies, you need citizens to be engaged, be aware that this is happening, and and make their preferences known. That's what causes action in society. So I think there's something healthy about this dialogue too, which is happening. And given the pace at which the technology is moving forward, it seems right to me, both the concerns and the fact that we need to take it seriously.
You think that sure, jobs may change a lot, but you entry-level graduate, the economic future is still bright for you. Like what is that case in your mind?
At a basic level, I do think we are, there is a new level of capability all of us are going to have to be able to do things. And I wasn't there like when spreadsheets rolled out to people, I wouldn't know how you did financial analysis before that. How did people do it, right?
I'll say it. I didn't do it. I had no idea how to do it.
Okay. Yeah. But, spreadsheets changed that. And so there's an aspect of this, I think it just is going to change the starting point for many, many people. Just even coding, I think if you fast forward the progress we are seeing there, so many more people are going to be able to code in the world. Right. And, I've heard you two might be examples of that and in that journey. But I think you're just at the leading edge of what is going to happen more and more. So I think those are the new serendipitous ways this will all work out that we underestimate. I think people are going to be more productive. They will have more time for leisure. All of that will simultaneously be true. There are so many areas where today people's work, involves a lot, doctors have, high burnout rates, and it's because they train and, and their calling is to spend time with patients, taking care of patients. But, most doctors would tell you if you actually watch their time, the percentage of time they spend with patients is less, right? So I think AI will actually help them do more of that, right? And I think those are examples of it. The radiologist analogy has been fascinating. It's been now a decade running. I look at myself and I say, well, I've gotten a lot more scans in my life than my dad ever did. And each of the scans have 10x the amount of information than his scans had because they were constrained by printing film versus us being digital. And I think that number is going to be 10x in 10 years. So where is that projection going into, you are actually going to need AI to keep up, right, with that demand coming. So I think it's non-linear how the impact of all this will be. This is not, I don't want in any way to minimize every technology shift brings disruption with it. And, I think, there will be disruption, and we as a society need to be super serious about it and engage. And so some of the conversations I think are rightful in thinking through that. But I do think there are many positive dimensions to it, which are maybe not being talked about. And I think, and also there is overly deterministic dire scenarios, which are actually, I've used it a lot more in my professional context, more to the context because of it was mainly available in my corp account, as part of it. In that context, I've definitely used it as it's super easy to use it to prepare for any meeting. I wish I had brought the prompt / the output for, I just, as a test case, used it for hard fork.
Honestly, if you email to us, we would flash it on the screen.
Yeah. It had some things about the two of you, so I don't think I can project it.
No, that's what we want. No, we want that. We want that. We want to know how Gemini dragged us.
I'm not sure I'll allow that too. No, I'm just kidding. Partially kidding.
Yeah.
So you should see Casey's browser history.
Partially kidding. Yeah. But I have had it in my personal account more recently. So again, here's a simple task I did. I just asked it to just look ahead at my meetings and color code it in categories so that I can keep sense of how I'm spending my time. I think, it's extraordinary to watch it. It came back with suggestions of 2 color coding schemes, and I just had to choose one. And it's actually like sci-fi. It's just changes the color in the calendar. Personal meetings, health-related meetings, time I'm spending at work, etc. That's an example of a personal query I just did just to see what's happening, right? And but with agents, I think you have to give people a sense of, I think about this as what allowed us to get someone to sit in the backseat of a self-driving car, right? We did it in steps. And I think there's an element of that where with agents, if something unexpected happens, I think, people will back off from this. And, so part of it is earning their trust. And so giving them a sense of control, transparency, but more importantly, from a security standpoint, these systems, can be hacked. And so we want to make sure we are not ahead of the frontier in a wrong way.
Speaking of meetings, and you're
toward what you call recursive self-improvement, so building AI systems that improve themselves rapidly. Do you think that can be done safely? And do you feel like you have a line of sight to it right now?
These models are getting better at, coding and agentic workflows. And so at some point, you can see in anti-gravity today, in over 12 hours, it can build a simple OS from scratch, right? And, that is, genuinely, those are multiple thousands of hours for somebody to do, right? So you are seeing some of that in work today. We are all in our products in some version or the other have agents and sub-agents and the orchestration of those agents building things together. It's a continuum, right? And I think we are all definitely making some progress. But in the way people describe RSI, I don't think we are there yet. And, that would represent the next level of acceleration. And I think would have a lot of implications. But we aren't quite there yet.
Is there a plan for, great news, we just hit RSI. Is there a sort of, do we break glass or what happens then?
It's a great example of look, I think all responsible labs, I think if you're approaching moments like that, you would be, consulting with, it shouldn't be an internal conversation at that point. I think it has to be a much broader conversation than that. And I think we all have to avoid race conditions at those stages of AGI.
Right now, all the labs are about AGI and your feelings about the term. And at the time, you responded that it didn't really matter whether you've reached AGI or not because the systems are going to be very, very capable and Google's strategy should be the same. I noticed that you did not say AGI in your keynote. Demis did, but you did not. What's your relationship with the term AGI today and sort of the idea that all of this progress is building towards something singular and world-changing?
Oh, we are, there is inevitable progress towards AGI that's happening. I've long understood it. And, otherwise I wouldn't have pivoted the company 10 years ago to put that technology at the heart and center of the company. All I meant by that statement was, even in this scenario, AGI is going to take 10 years. The technology which 3 years out will be so much more powerful than what we have today that I don't want people to think because AGI is 10 years out, you don't need to act or prepare. That is all my statement means in those contexts.
Are you AGI pilled?
Well, I absolutely, I'm sure that the technology is making foundational progress towards AGI. I'm less able to predict with certainty whether it's in the 3 to 5 year time frame or 5 to 10 year time frame. The rate of progress over the last 1 to 2 years has made me feel it's on the closer side than not. And I just don't, in your role running one of the largest companies in the world, which has a responsibility to society, the language I choose to use around it might be different than other people. But I think, as a company in terms of, 10 years ago, the I/O stage, I announced TPUs and AI-first data centers. Yes, clearly understood where this technology is headed.
Maybe as a last question, one of the more memorable phrases, I think, from the keynote this year did come from Demis when he said that we're in the foothills of the singularity. Can you tell us, concretely what that means from Google's perspective? And should people be excited about that or afraid or both?
Look, I've had many conversations with Demis, obviously, on this topic. And I think in this context, he's defining singularity as the advent of AGI. Right? I think he's talking in that context. And, I think if you think, regardless of, if I remember, I think he had kind of articulated by 2030 or so. I think if you believe that, it makes sense to you. That's what you're articulating. And, it's as simple as that. I think for him, that's how he defines singularity. And I think Demis, myself, many others, we all feel it's important to, if that's what you believe, it's important to articulate that because we are all at the frontier building this technology. And, hopefully people are listening. And I think it's important to, as a society, we are internalizing that and getting ready for it.